Talk to yourself like this just for 3 days. For 3 days, give your mind a different conversation, a kinder one. So often we carry words inside us that were never ours to begin with, words of criticism, of doubt, of fear. But imagine, just for a moment, what would happen if you chose to speak differently to yourself? When you wake up in the morning, before your feet even touch the ground, whisper to yourself, I am capable. I am ready for today. I am strong enough for what comes my way. Don't wait until you feel it. Say it until you begin to believe it. The tone you use with yourself can set the tone for your entire day. As you move through your hours, when frustration tries to creep in, or when exhaustion presses against you, pause. Breathe. Then quietly remind yourself, I am steady, and I am growing. I am more than this moment. Those words are like small anchors, keeping you from drifting into doubt or overwhelmed. They don't need to be loud. They just need to be consistent. And at night, before you close your eyes, give yourself words that heal. Tell yourself, I am safe. I am loved. I am allowed to rest. So much of the world will demand from you, pull from you, expect from you. But in the stillness of your own voice, you can remind yourself that you are not just surviving, you are becoming. 3 days. And that's all I'm asking you to give yourself. 3 days of replacing harshness with compassion. 3 days of noticing how different you feel when the words in your head become gentle instead of sharp, hopeful instead of heavy. 3 days of speaking to yourself as if you are someone worth protecting, because you are. And if you talk to yourself like this for 3 days, you may discover that the way you move through the world shifts. Your shoulders feel a little lighter. Your heart feels a little freer. And your reflection in the mirror finally looks like someone you recognize, someone you can believe in. To replace self-criticism with affirmations of strength and worth is to take back control over the conversation that runs endlessly within your own mind. The human mind has a way of replaying harsh words, echoing fears, and magnifying mistakes until they seem larger than life. Many people live in that space without even realizing it, carrying old criticisms from childhood, rejections from relationships, or failures from past experiences. These words become the inner dialogue that dictates how we see ourselves, how we step into opportunities, and how we respond to challenges. The problem with self-criticism is that it rarely builds, it breaks. It doesn't encourage, it discourages. And if it's left unchecked, it begins to sound like truth, when in reality, it is simply a habit of thought. That is why affirmations of strength and worth are not just positive words spoken into the air, but medicine for the spirit and training for the mind. They serve as reminders of what is already true within you, even if you've forgotten. Imagine waking up and the first thought you hear is not about what you lack or how unprepared you are, but instead a declaration that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you hold value not because of what you achieved, but because of who you are. When these kinds of words are repeated daily, they begin to form new pathways in the mind, creating a foundation of confidence and resilience. Affirmations are not about pretending life is perfect. They are about choosing to focus on the truth of your strength instead of the lie of your weakness. When you say to yourself, I am enough, you are not denying the areas where you want to grow. You are affirming that even in growth, you are not lacking. This is how the cycle of self-criticism begins to weaken, because it cannot thrive in the same space as deliberate, life-giving words. Self-criticism often comes disguised as motivation. It whispers, you're not doing enough, in hopes that you will push harder, perform better, or achieve more. but this kind of push wears you down instead of lifting you up. True motivation comes from encouragement. When you tell yourself, I am capable of growth, I am equipped for challenges, I am learning every day, you are not excusing effort, you are empowering it. Encouragement stirs action without the weight of shame. It inspires you to step forward, not out of fear of failing, but out of trust in your ability to rise. Affirmations, then, are not just words. They are a reorientation of how you see yourself in relation to your life. They are the difference between walking into a room thinking, I am not enough for this, and walking into the same room knowing, I bring value here. The language of self-criticism is rooted in the past. It repeats mistakes, it recalls rejections, and it loops on moments that cannot be changed. But affirmations point you toward the present and the future. They ground you in what is possible, what is unfolding, what is still within your power to shape. For example, a self-critical thought might say, I always mess things up. An affirmation shifts it into, I am learning from every step, and I am growing stronger with each attempt. The first voice leaves you stuck in regret. The second voice empowers you to keep moving. That is why replacing criticism with affirmation is a practice of freedom. You are not silencing reality. You are choosing which reality to believe in and nurture. This shift also changes the way you show up in relationships. When you carry self-criticism, you often look for external validation to fill the emptiness it leaves behind. And you need others to constantly reassure you because you have not yet learned to reassure yourself. But when you build a habit of affirmations, you begin to carry your own foundation of worth. And you enter relationships with a stronger sense of who you are, which allows you to love without fear of rejection and to stand firm without the constant need for approval. Your inner dialogue spills into the way you treat others, too. Someone who speaks to themselves with kindness is far more likely to extend kindness outwardly. Affirmations, then, are not just a private practice. They are a seed that grows into every part of life. To replace self-criticism with affirmations of strength and worth requires patience. The critical voice may not disappear overnight because it has been rehearsed for years. But each time you notice it and choose an affirmation instead, you weaken its grip. It is like training a muscle. Repetition builds strength. One day, you will hear the old critical voice rise up, and instead of believing it, you will recognize it for what it is, a lie that you no longer entertain. And in its place will be the steady, grounded voice of your own worth, reminding you that you are more than enough, that you are strong, and that you are capable of becoming everything you are meant to be. To use intentional words morning, day, and night to shape your mindset is to give rhythm to your thoughts in the same way breathing gives rhythm to your body. Every moment of the day, the mind is receiving information, interpreting experiences, and attaching meaning to events. Without awareness, the words that dominate your thoughts often come from habit, from old wounds, or from the noise of the world. This is why intentional words matter. They become the anchors that direct the flow of your inner dialogue, shifting it from chaos to clarity, from doubt to strength, from fear to peace. Speaking intentionally 3 times a day, when you rise, as you move through your hours, and before you rest, creates a cycle of renewal that not only transforms your perspective, but reshapes your reality. The morning is the most critical moment to set this intention. At the moment of waking, your mind is most impressionable and still soft and open from the state of sleep. Too often, the first thoughts are borrowed from yesterday's stress or tomorrow's worries. But by choosing your words at this hour, You claim the atmosphere of your day before anything else can define it. Saying to yourself, I am prepared for what today brings. Strong. I am at peace with my path. Allows your thoughts to rise above fear and positions you to meet challenges with steadiness. Morning words act as a compass. They do not erase obstacles, but they direct your attitude toward them. The person who wakes up with words of courage walks differently, speaks differently, and chooses differently than the one who wakes up rehearsing anxiety. Morning affirmations are like planting seeds into the soil of your mind. Whatever is planted, there will grow as the hours unfold. Throughout the day, life has a way of pressing in. Disappointments, interruptions, but unexpected demands can unsettle even the strongest of hearts. This is where the second layer of intentional words plays its part. Midday affirmations become a recalibration, a way to steady yourself in the midst of movement. They act as a pause button, allowing you to breathe and redirect your energy. For example, when frustrations arise, the untrained mind might rush to say, I can't do this, I'm overwhelmed, I'm failing. But the intentional mind interrupts with words like, I am steady, I am learning, I am growing. These words do not deny the weight of the moment, but they remind you that you are not defined by it. They draw your focus from the problem to your power, from the obstacle to your capacity to overcome. By repeating intentional words during the day, you build resilience that no external pressure can fully dismantle. You cultivate an inner sanctuary that moves with you, protecting your peace wherever you go. Nighttime words hold a different kind of power. At the end of the day, the mind tends to replay everything that has gone wrong, keeping you awake with rehearsed mistakes or unfinished tasks. But when you deliberately close your day with words of peace and reassurance, you give yourself permission to rest. Whispering to yourself, I am safe, I am loved, I am allowed to let go of today, creates a bridge between your waking life and your dreams. These words prepare your body for rest and your mind for renewal. They remind you that no matter what has unfolded, you are still whole and you are still on your journey. Nighttime affirmations are not about avoiding reflection, but about ending the day without carrying its burdens into tomorrow. They are a form of release, a gentle closure that allows you to enter sleep with a heart that is unburdened and a mind that is comforted. When intentional words are practiced in this rhythm, morning, day, and night, they create a cycle of strength. Morning words set your vision. Daytime words keep you steady. Nighttime words bring you peace. Over time, this cycle builds an internal foundation that remains unshaken, even in difficult seasons. The consistency of it reshapes the way you experience life. Challenges become opportunities to practice courage. Setbacks become lessons that lead to growth, and successes are celebrated with gratitude rather than fear of losing them. Intentional words shape your mindset, not because they magically change circumstances, but because they change you. They train your mind to see possibility where once it saw limitation, to expect growth where once it anticipated failure, and to hold peace where once it carried unrest. This is the quiet but powerful transformation that comes when you choose your words deliberately at the 3 anchor points of every day. 3 days of compassionate self. Talk can shift your entire outlook because the mind responds quickly to the patterns it is given. Most people underestimate how quickly thoughts can rewire perception. Yet the human brain is designed to adapt and reshape itself based on repeated experience. When you fill it with harsh self-criticism, it strengthens those neural pathways until negativity feels natural. But when you deliberately practice speaking words of compassion, even for a short period like 3 days, the brain begins to soften toward those new messages. It learns to anticipate encouragement rather than judgment, to expect kindness instead of condemnation. This change in the inner atmosphere influences emotions, decisions, and behaviors, creating a ripple effect that alters the way life feels and the way you show up in it. The first day of compassionate self-talk often feels unfamiliar. If you are used to criticizing yourself, praising yourself may sound forced, almost uncomfortable. You might catch your mind resisting, trying to pull back into old language like, I never get this right, or I'll never be enough, but persistence matters. When you interrupt that voice with words like, I am learning, I am growing, I am worthy of trying again, you create the first crack in the old pattern. The shift may be subtle at first, but even one day of consistent, compassionate words can reduce stress levels, calm anxious thoughts, and open up a sense of possibility that criticism always closes. It is not the perfection of the words that matters, but the practice of choosing them over the old script. By the second day, the practice begins to reveal its strength. You may notice that challenges feel less heavy when you meet them with words of patience instead of judgment. Instead of saying, I should have done better, you say, I did what I could and I will learn from this. Instead of telling yourself, I'm falling behind, you choose, I'm moving at my own pace, and that is enough. These shifts might not change the external situation immediately, but they change how you feel inside it. Stress loses some of its grip. The inner critic that once grew louder in pressure finds itself met with calm, nurturing words. By the second day, you begin to see how compassion doesn't make you weaker. It makes you steadier, more resilient, more willing to keep going. Compassionate self-talk creates emotional space where once there was only tension. The third day often carries the first taste of transformation. After 2 days of steady practice, the compassionate words begin to feel more natural. Instead of sounding like phrases borrowed from somewhere else, they start to sound like your own voice. By this point, the inner critic no longer dominates automatically. It may still rise, but it meets resistance. You have given your mind an alternative, and that alternative feels good enough to choose again. On the third day, many people experience moments of unexpected confidence or sudden peace, or a surprising sense of lightness in situations that once felt heavy. This is because compassion begins to work as a filter, changing the meaning you assign to your experiences. A setback no longer feels like proof of inadequacy, but like part of the process. A mistake no longer feels like an ending, but like an opportunity to learn. With 3 days of steady practice, the mind has tasted a new way of being, and it begins to crave it. What makes 3 days so powerful is not that they erase years of negative self-talk, but that they prove to you that change is possible. Many believe they are stuck with the voice in their head, that self-criticism is permanent, that harshness is the only way to push themselves forward. But 3 days of compassion reveal that another way exists. You experience firsthand how your energy shifts, how your perspective brightens, how your confidence grows when you treat yourself kindly. This lived experience is more powerful than any abstract belief. Once you have felt it, you cannot deny it. Stunned 3 days may be the beginning, but it is enough to show you the doorway to a new outlook, one that expands with continued practice. Compassionate self-talk becomes the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. In just 3 days, you realize that you do not have to wait for external validation to feel worthy. You do not have to be perfect to feel proud. And you do not have to carry old criticism like a permanent burden. You learn that the words you choose shape the lens through which you see yourself and the world. And when you choose compassion consistently, even for a short span, you shift the foundation of your outlook from doubt to belief, from pressure to peace, from fear to hope. 3 days can seem small, but it is enough to spark a transformation that continues as long as you choose to nurture it. When you begin to speak to yourself with kindness, and even for a few days, you awaken a strength that has always been there, but was hidden beneath layers of criticism and doubt. Words are not empty. They are seeds, and what you plant in the soil of your mind will grow into the landscape of your life. By choosing affirmations of worth, by using intentional words morning, day, and night, and by practicing compassion toward yourself, you begin to reframe how you see challenges, how you respond to pressure, and how you carry yourself into each new day. This simple act of changing the way you speak inwardly is not about pretending life is perfect, but about choosing to believe that you are capable of walking through it with peace and strength. 3 days of consistent, compassionate self-talk can become the spark that ignites a lifelong practice of speaking life instead of defeat, truth instead of fear, and hope instead of despair. The transformation begins in your words, and then it flows into your thoughts, your actions, and the reality you create around you.